think I'm dying, Wiglaf." Beo clutched the deep and painful sword wound in his side. He lifted his hand to look once again at the seeping mess between the leather straps of his armour, and winced as he saw it. He knew, deep in his heart, that he would not survive this latest affront to his body. His head sunk low, and he let out a deep sigh of pain and exhaustion. "Nonsense," Wiglaf muttered, though in his heart he knew it to be true. On many occasions he had seen his king receive far greater wounds than this in battle, yet he had remained as strong as an ox. Never had he seen him brought so low in spirit as this. It worried him greatly. On the journey home from the battlefield, Wiglaf had thought Beo to be suffering the common depression men felt in defeat, but it was more than that, he knew now. Beo's vigour seemed to be waning, and Wiglaf could feel it on him. "You are Beornwulf, and you will survive," Wiglaf shouted at him. But Beo remained silent, his eyes closed, deep in thought. He looked so tired, Wiglaf thought, so very, very tired. Beo inhaled sharply, then blew slowly through his lips as daggers of pain pulsed through his side once again. "Not this time, my friend." He slowly opened his eyes and met Wiglaf's gaze. "I fear I will not recover as I once did in my youth, Wiglaf. It is my time, dear friend. But truly, I did not think my story would end this way. This is not how I wish to die." Sadness and a flicker of defeat had crept behind that gaze. Tears formed in Wiglaf's eyes, for he had known nothing but strength from the man seated before him, and seeing the decline in Beowulf's health broke his tired heart. He sank down to sit beside him on the sturdy wooden bench in the great hall, alone for the first time in a week. They had cleared the space so they could speak privately together. In addition to Beowulf's war wounds, they were both battle-weary and suffering the deep sting of defeat. They had ridden out so confidently against the upstart King Ecbert just 3 days past, but the battle had not gone as expected. Beowulf stared deeply into the flickering fire, which seemed to spread no heat into the wood-beamed hall inside the wind-battered fortress on the hill. Heavy gusts howled through the timbers ominously, whistling here and there through the small panes of cloudy glass that looked out onto the courtyard. It was a truly grey and miserable day outside, and the scene through the windows reflected well the mood of the surviving warriors as they returned home and filed in slowly through the strong wooden gates, weary and fighting still against the sucking mud of the thoroughfare. "This is not how I want to die, Wiglaf," Beornwulf repeated it louder this time, as he drew his gaze from the miserable view. There was anger in his voice now. The story of Beornwulf cannot end this way. A spark of life returned to his eyes. He stood up too quickly, wincing as the wound opened a little and pain shot through his body. He knew his time was numbered in days now, maybe even in hours, he thought. He had never felt this weak before. He had suffered wounds like this in the past, but this one felt different. A poison seemed to be creeping into the incision, and trailing veins of blackness were beginning to spider out from its edges. "Help me with my armour, my friend. I feel the weight of it increasing on me by the hour." Wiglaf stood and unbuckled the shoulder straps, gently easing off the shoulder plates and pulling the chainmail hauberk carefully over Beo's head. With the heavy armour removed, Beo began to feel a little forgotten strength returning to his limbs, and a new determination began to surface within him. He had made his decision. "I fear I do not have long, Wiglaf, and I will not let my story end here in defeat. Not here, and not from a mere babe's sword wound, no less. Nay, Wiglaf, I cannot let it be thus. So I swear by all that I hold dear, that from this moment forward my mind shall be set to one task only. I will go to face the dreaded serpent that plagues our people, and I will do so this very hour before my life leaves me entirely. With what is left of my dying strength, I will attempt to rid our lands of this creature's wrath, and I thank the gods for this final chance at glory against a foe such as he, for without him I would surely die defeated." The boast sounded heartfelt. Wiglaf's sunken eyes brightened a little, and a small smile evidenced the glimmer of hope sparking deep within him. Beo was back. Wiglaf had not thought of the dragon in months now, it seemed. The beast had been quiet in the last year, and rare was a sighting of him reported in recent days, but the people of the land were in terror of him still. Wiglaf thought back to the destruction that had been dealt them on that terrible night 2 winters past. Fire had fallen from the sky in that year, and 5 of the 7 hilltop forts had been badly damaged. 3 had been razed to the ground. Farmhouses and many people of the land were consumed in flame as the fiery rock rained down without mercy. Over the subsequent days, cattle were found dead from sheer terror. Many had drowned in the estuary as they tried to flee the inescapable attack from the heavens. Fortunately, some remained alive, but most were scattered across the hills, and food was short that year. The slow and arduous labour required to reconstruct the forts had then taken its toll on the people and left the land vulnerable to attack from the merciless Vikings, who had sent many raiding parties over the seas in the following months. The first attacks were thwarted quickly by Beowulf and his warriors, who hung the butchered Vikings from a scaffold on their hilltop, leaving an ugly warning for all future raiders to see as they sailed up the Usa seeking plunder. The message was clear: the Anglo-Saxon kings would not be defeated so easily. Those 7 hilltop forts in Sussex had kept that land safe for generations, and now the banded kings of the Anglo-Saxons had been forced to defend the land without them, and at the same time reconstruct their defensive structures in as short a time as possible. It had left the kingdom weakened, and the people hated the serpent for that. In truth, not a soul had actually seen the beast launching the fireballs from the heavens on that fateful night, but they had become convinced it was he, and as the stories were told and retold, this possibility became a fact. It was the serpent's wrath brought upon them, he whose home steamed with fiery vapours from deep within the earth. Vengeance for the killing of his kinsfolk, they murmured. Retribution for the theft of the precious vessel that had long lain within that steaming mound.